Wham! Talk 1600. You're catching the drift. Conservative talk. Intelligent conversations on local, state, and national issues with Gary Wellings, chief editor of the Current newspaper and Current Online. Join in the conversation at 734-822-1600. And now, your host, Gary Wellings.
And good Saturday afternoon. Thanks for tuning in to catch our drift. Joining me in the studio, Ipsy Ed Bonderenka.
Just here for the drift, man.
Catching our drift, Ed. Well, that's what we do. And what we do on the drift every Saturday is go over the news that I put on thedailydrift.com. And if you're not going there, you should be. www.thedailydrift.com. It's
the news you need to know.
Thank you, sir. You are a gentleman and a scholar.
You're shortening up the lead in there. I was...
it's one of those days, you know. I just told you, I'm ready for a sabbatical. You're going to have to pull this show for a couple of weeks, I think. I'm ready to get away.
Dear Cupkey, summertime. Yeah, he was singing.
Yes, I know. Gets in your head, doesn't it?
Yep.
All right, well, let's take care of our sponsor this half hour, Max Marina, Lakefront on Whitmore Lake. If you're looking to rent a boat, buy a boat, new boat, used boat, buy some tackle, buy some boat repair stuff, or get your boat fixed or serviced, 734-449-4706. That's 734-449-4706. Or you can go to Max Marina, M-A-C-S, maxmarina.com, and check out what they got. They got a place in South Line to do repairs. And they do snowmobiles and stuff and motorcycles and four-wheelers and that whole kind of thing. So 734-449-4706. Give them a call if you want to get something done on your boat.
It's a nice place on the lake.
Whitmore Lake's
so easy to get to.
It is a great lake, yes. And if you want to rent boats, I think he's got those there too. So, yeah, we got a bunch of stuff to talk about, and I want to tell our Twitter followers and our callers and readers to come in and call us, 734-822-1600. Love to get your views and opinions on anything. We're open today. We'll call it an open mic.
In other words, we got nothing.
Here's where I'm going to start, because you know what? This week we had a Islamic terror attack in Flint, Michigan,
and
right up the road.
The government agrees with you.
45 minutes up the road, yes, and they did. Now, I jinxed it because I
go through Bishop.
I fly out of Bishop quite often. Yes, it's
international airport.
They call it international. I don't know that there's any international flights, but either way, you know, here I fly out of Flint, and I was just telling somebody that I love going to Flint. It's easy in, easy out. Security's quick. There's never crowds. Parking's easy, and all of a sudden we get the knife attack, and I'm like, oh no, please don't let it be a terror attack. Sure enough, some guy coming out of Canada through New York, and where has he been for the last week before he left Canada and got to Bishop to attack a cop? Right?
Where?
I don't know.
I don't know either. I can't find out.
I don't know.
All my contacts.
Dollars to Donuts? Yeah. Probably somewhere in Dearborn?
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying. Dearbornistan? I'm just saying. Used to be a nice town. I don't like going there anymore. But that's me. You call me a hater if you want.
If you like Middle Eastern food, Middle Eastern bakeries.
If I want that kind of international flair, I come right here to the People's Republic of Ann Arbor. You've got the most diversity in the world right here.
Yep.
It's a little communist for my blood. But hey, that's the price you pay, I guess, for living in the People's Republic of Ann Arbor. Right?
It's a high price.
It is a high price. So 734-822-1600, you want to call in and talk about anything. But what bothers me is how it's just disappeared, right? Just fell off the map. You know, even our local news, Channel 2, Channel 4, Channel 7, very limited. They didn't want to talk about terror. Nobody wants to talk about the elephant in the room, that here was a terrorist guy hiding out somewhere in probably Michigan or between here and New York anyways. Where was he for the last week? Steve Gruber, who does our morning shows here, talked a bit about, and he's done a good job. I like Steve. He's doing a really good job in the mornings here. And there's that crazy Islamic radical dude down here in Dearborn, right?
Mm-hmm. And
running free reign.
Yep.
They let the hate just flower in Dearborn. You know, and the time has maybe come to just stop that nonsense. Here's my biggest pet peeve of all. Let's have no more foreign financing of mosques in this country.
Yes.
I mean, you can't build a church in Saudi Arabia. They wouldn't allow us to finance building a church in Saudi Arabia,
or let a Bible in, much less a church.
Yes, and you can't even go there if you're from Israel or a Jew, right? Mm-hmm. No Jews allowed. So maybe it's time to just tighten it up a little bit and say, hey, we're kind of done with letting you guys pour money.
When does sedition come into play? With some of the incitement to riot, sedition? There's got to be something on the books that and I don't want to abrogate anybody's free speech rights. But you, like Rick was saying earlier, you can't call out movie in a firehouse.
Yeah. All I'm saying is this country, along with Western Europe, is basically committing cultural suicide.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason Japan says, you're not building any mosques. You want to be a Muslim and worship Islam, you're going to do it in your home, and you're going to be low profile because we're not allowing that to contaminate our culture.
Yep.
You can say that about the Japanese. They're at least protecting their own culture, right?
Yep.
Let's take a call from Ken in Livonia. Ken, welcome to the show.
Yeah, you bring up the latest attack in Flint, and I just have to say, comment you just made having to do with suicide, that's exactly what our country is doing. I keep hearing as I flip around the radio dial, the stupidest comments available that, well, Islam is not a religion of violence. Islam is a religion of peace. Well, excuse me, once again, speaking as someone that's actually took the time to read the Quran and study Islam.
Yep.
For over 1,400 years, these people have been trying to kill all non-Muslims. It's just a fact. Excuse me, people in the audience, the Quran, clearly, if you read it, gives them all the justification you need. Islam has never been a religion of peace. Muhammad was a butcher. That's just a fact. And the stupidity that I keep seeing around me, the Roman Catholic Church, liberal Christian churches, and other morons who keep trying to promote, Islam is truly a religion of peace. And these people that are committing acts of violence are not following Muhammad. That's a lie. That's not true. And wake up, people, unless you want to get yourself killed.
Yep.
It's a religion of peace. I'm sorry. It is a religion of peace, and it's a peace maintained by the sword. As long as you submit, everything's peaceful.
That's exactly right. Well, great call, Ken, man. As always, you're spot on. If you haven't read the Quran, folks, you got no argument against me and Ken because we're on the same page on this. I've read the Quran, and
I read the Cliff Notes.
I was going to worship it, and when I got to the end and saw the stupidity and hypocrisy of it, I was like, what a garbage piece of religion that is. Not even...
Well, one thing to remember, too, now, without a doubt in my mind, Lucifer directly founded Islam. And when you listen to the history of Islam going back to Muhammad, where Muhammad himself said that he believed he was possessed, and it was his wife that convinced him, oh, no, honey, you weren't possessed by the devil. That was just God talking to you. Well, hey, people, even Muhammad himself knew he was possessed by the devil, and let's go from there.
Yeah.
Well, let's make the distinction. In Islam, you die for Allah, and in Christianity, God dies for you.
Yeah. Well,
another thing too. Well, another quick thing I just want to leave your audience with because I keep hearing this also on the TV and radio. The stupid comment that when a Muslim says Allah Akbar, that translates to God is great. Well, that is not true because a practicing Muslim will never use the generic term God because Allah is Allah. He is not the God of the Jews. He's not the God of the Christians. He is Allah. And so a translation would be Allah is great, not this stupid thing I keep hearing on the news, God is great. Because that's not true.
If I may, I'm glad you brought that up, Ken, because I was talking to somebody at the diner this Wednesday, and we had the same conversation. And just before I had left for dinner, I had watched what was Fox 6 o'clock.
Bret Baier.
Bret Baier, yeah. And he had talked about the guy who yelled out Allahu Akbar, and then Bret Baier's translation of it was God is the greatest. And I thought, well, that's odd. I've never heard that done before. And I was talking to Dennis about it, and he noticed the same thing. And he said there's quite the distinction between Allah Akbar and Allahu Akbar. And the difference between God is great and God is the greatest. And he was saying that there's quite a lot implied in that change of statement. When you say Allahu Akbar, you're basically saying death to the infidels. You're not just saying God is great. You're saying God is great above all others and death to infidels. I don't know if that's true or not. I didn't get a chance because I've been so busy at work. But I'll take his word for it.
Well, even Allah Akbar, Allah is great, would mean the same thing. Because you got to remember, for jihad to be effective, for a Muslim to be able to benefit from jihad, he has to identify that his act of violence is for Allah. So if a Muslim goes out and commits jihad, whether he kills an infidel or is killed by an infidel, if he does not identify publicly that he's doing it for Allah, it doesn't mean anything.
Right.
So that's why you see all these Muslims screaming Allah Akbar. There again, Allah is great, or Allah is the greatest.
Right.
To identify that he's doing it for Allah.
Okay. Well, great, Ken. Good call as always. I appreciate it, and hopefully we'll hear from you again.
Thanks, Ken.
Take care.
Well, you know, one thing I keep identifying is people are trying to deny the fact that, hey, people, there's something wrong with the Quran. You know, it's like people are tap dancing around trying to.
The Quran is what it is, man.
The Quran is the problem.
Yeah, no, the Quran is what it is, and until they reform and rewrite it and take all that stuff out, it's a cult. That's all it is. All right, thanks for the call, Ken. We're loading up here. We'll see you later.
Yep. Take care.
Yeah, let's take a call from Joe in Wyandotte. Joe, welcome to the show.
Hey, guys, how's it going?
Good. What's going on, Joe?
I wanted to bring up, you have on the Daily Drift the news you need to know about
He's going for my
President
job.
Trump signing in some VA reform.
Yep.
Is about damn time and long overdue. I'm not happy until some heads actually roll. This cannot be just more, see, look what we did, and still excuse everybody or overlook everybody that did bad and say, oh, okay, well, just going forward from now. No, some heads have to actually roll for what happened.
Yeah, and you know, I think part of that, too, Joe, is the fact that we've got these government unions. Why in the hell do we have government unions? What are we protecting? You've got the cushiest job on the planet. At one time, you went into civil service for lower pay, but you had good benefits and stability. Now they get paid more than you do in the private sector. They don't do the work that they should be doing. Their performance is substandard at best, and yet they're protected because they have this government union, which spends money electing Democrats normally to protect them. Sometimes it's Republicans as well. So they're all on the take. But why are we allowing a union, a government union, to exist? It's nonsense.
Well, and that's why real estate prices are going so high in Washington, D.C. and won't go down, because everybody there has an interest who works for the government in seeing more government employees so that their property value goes up and they don't take a loss. If we really did clean the swamp, so many workers and the people who retain their jobs would suffer such property value loss in Washington, D.C., because all of a sudden property's cheap because there's so many empty houses.
Right. Well, speaking of losses, Joe, hang on for a minute. I'm going to use this segue.
Ooh.
If you want to play poker tonight, go to Burroughs Roadhouse. Is that a great segue or what?
Not bad at all.
Hey, go to Burroughs, 810-227-6000. 9 o'clock tonight, they got a Texas Hold'em tournament, so you really want... I know, I'm getting cheesy, aren't I?
That's not bad, really. You and
I
Glenn Beck,
saw
man,
my
and buy
opening,
gold,
and I
too.
took it, right? 810-227-6000. It's a great place to eat, drink, and make merry, and they have a Saturday afternoon happy hour from 11 a.m. until 5 on a Saturday. Who has a happy hour on Saturday? Burroughs Roadhouse has a happy hour on Saturday.
Happy 6 hours.
That's a nice happy hour. Burroughs-roadhouse.com. And they've got a great atmosphere there. It's really awesome. So check them out. All right. So, Joe, what else you got? Anything?
Yeah, well, blackjack's more my thing than poker, but unrelated to that,
Justice Young.
we could, of course, talk about the latest on the Senate, too, but I was going to say, we need to get rid of some employees. We need Congress to pass a law slashing 10% of all payrolls of 90% of the departments that exist within government.
Yeah,
10% across the board.
10% would be huge. But, I'd be happy with, and I think this is kind of where Trump was going. If we get rid of this baseline budgeting, and stop the growth, because government grows at what, 3+%